Hello, Tullahoma. My name is Daniel Berry. I'm currently serving as one of your 6 aldermen here in Tullahoma, and I'm up for re-election. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about myself for those that don't know me. Talk to you a little bit about what we've done together over the past 3 years. And at the end, I'm going to ask you for your vote. The boring part, real quick, is my family moved here in 1992. So we've been here for a little over 30 years. I am a proud Bobcat and Wildcat, graduating from Tullahoma High School by way of West Middle School. Played football, which is where a lot of the team spirit that you'll hear me talk about a little bit later comes from. My father was in the military, and so we chose Tullahoma because of the school system and the Air Force Base being here. When we chose to move from Central Ohio, the original destination was Sandestin, so Hurricane Andrew kind of helped solidify the decision here as well. I went to Motlow State in business administration and software engineering, computer science with software engineering from WGU. My background is in software engineering, technology, operations, board governance, and policy management. And that's kind of the boring about me out of the way. Kind of the format here is I'm looking at a camera and I've got 10 minutes to talk to you. And I want to preface everything that I'm going to say here with I is not a word that I like to use often. But being an incumbent, we're going to have to talk about some of the things that I've accomplished. But I prefer to look at it as we have accomplished. Because I don't think that any individual, whether it may be your idea or you could have pushed it, it takes an entire team. And in the case of city government, it takes 6 other board members getting along and finding ways to work together even when we disagree. It takes a city manager, it takes a city staff, and it takes the community being involved. One of the things that I hope that you're excited about is where Tullahoma is going. We have a lot of great things happening right now. 2019, 2020, 2021 were kind of rough years globally, economically, but Tullahoma as a city, we've done fairly well. We have weathered that economic storm, and I think some of that is a lot to do with the financial leadership that we have had from Sue Wilson and her department in the finance at the city of Tullahoma. We've got some exciting things coming your way. You've heard the rumors. We've got marshals coming. You can pull the permits and you can see that we do have an Old Navy and a Five Below and a Ross Dress for Less and the McAllisters. And I sit on the Economic Development Committee currently, and so there's some more things that I can't talk to you about, but I think that it's an exciting time to be living here in Tullahoma. I first was elected to the board in 2019, and I won by 5 votes. So every vote counts, means something to me, and I understand that. And there were a couple things that were extremely important to me. The reason that I decided to run is I had moved to San Antonio in 2012, and I moved back to Tennessee in 2017. I was working remotely at the time, and my niece had asked me when I was living in Texas why if I was able to work remotely, why I couldn't do that back here home in Tennessee. And I moved back 2 months later. And once I got back into Tullahoma, the experience that I had gathered over my work career and the lessons that I had learned from the teachers here in town and just kind of overall, I thought that I could contribute back to city government and to the city of Tullahoma. And I ran on 3 kind of major principles: transparency, accountable, and accessibility. And we'll talk about these briefly. Infrastructure was a big deal for me, and then focusing on the future. I am going to use some cheat notes here. I wish I had everything memorized. The transparency, accountability, and accessibility, those are big kind of broad words that people use all the time. To me, transparency and accountability is not just about telling people what's wrong. It's about getting people together, understanding what the problems are, disseminating information, helping people learn about how local government works. The city of Tullahoma works differently than the city of Manchester. Manchester works differently than Winchester. City government's not the same as county government or state government or local government. So really understanding how your local government works was important to me to kind of help do that. Over the period of 3 years, I had 36 town halls and meet and greets. Those were opportunities for where we would discuss different topics. We would have general Q&As. We covered everything from bullying to we had some courses on how local government works and explained the different, what an alderman actually does in Tullahoma, what's the role of the city administrator, what do each of the different departments hold. We held 23 community trash and cleanup days. And that was important to me because those were events that brought people from all over the city together in one spot. And we would have downtown cleanups, we'd walk the Greenway, and so it was an opportunity for us to talk about what's going on in Tullahoma, but also kind of give back and do some work while we're talking about it. I held over 100 virtual sessions to discuss important issues with you. We would go through the board agenda packets whenever possible. There's some times that I didn't because there's a lot that's contained in those, and I know that not everybody wants to read them, but since I need to anyway, it was a good opportunity for me to go through and kind of highlight the bullet point, the highlights for you. And I've handled over 1,000 calls from businesses and residents, and over 400 personal visits out, whether that was coming and looking at a pothole on your street, looking at a neighbor's yard and the overgrowth, or just coming out because you wanted to talk about your ideas for the city. And so to me, transparency is conversations, communications. The other big thing was infrastructure. Infrastructure is, we talk about it all the time, roads, sidewalks, but these are important because they touch other areas. Infrastructure is important for economic growth. Infrastructure is important for public safety. Our roads needed, growing up, there was kind of a running joke that my road was paved last year. Do we need to do it again? And somewhere along the line, we just kind of stopped investing in that infrastructure. But over the past 3 years, we doubled the budget for our annual paving compared with the 3 years prior, investing over $2.2 million. We heard roads as a board, and we made that a priority. We fully funded and repaved Cedar Lane, which was a $500,000 plus project. It was long overdue, and we desperately needed that. We committed to and invested over $2 million into funding in Cedar Lane, Avoca, East Grundy Street, and Clement Drive. We committed to and set aside $1.2 million for stormwater. We funded bathrooms, concessions at Johnson Lane. And so infrastructure is something we'll continue to work on. Focused on the future. As a planning commissioner, we've got the Think Tullahoma 2040. And I'm running out of time here, but you can go to berryforalderman.com to take a look at the platform. You can call me at 931-229-0364. I don't always answer on the first ring, but if you leave me a voicemail or you shoot me a text, I'll give you a call back because I do want to talk to you. Thank you to TUA for giving us this opportunity to talk with you, and thank you most importantly for taking the time to watch the interviews with each of these candidates. I think it's very important. I'm Daniel Berry, and I would appreciate your vote.
Hi Tullahoma, my name is Rupa Blackwell, and for the past 3 years I've had the pleasure of serving as your Tullahoma City Alderman. First, I want to say thank you for electing me 3 years ago, and that I hope to earn your vote again this year. I'm here today to share a little bit about myself with you, and also the work I've done over the past 3 years, because I want to make sure that you are able to make an educated decision in this election. I was born and raised here in Tullahoma, and upon my graduation from Tullahoma High School in 1999, I went to college in North Carolina where I studied chemistry and history. Upon graduation, I started working in a cancer research lab and realized that that was not what I wanted to do with my life and that I was actually very bad at it. While I spent 2 years working in cancer research, I knew that the next career move I would make would be a place where I would be able to work for a good cause, but with great people. I entered into my career as a nonprofit event producer and spent the next decade of my life in Los Angeles, growing in my profession and being blessed to meet my husband and start my family there. Following a heartbreaking miscarriage, my husband and I decided to move back for a slower pace of life and to honestly enjoy a small town that both he and I loved as children. I was elected to office in 2019, and before being elected, I served on our city's planning commission, several nonprofit boards, and had been volunteering in our city's schools for a while. And while on those boards and in those roles, I saw that Tullahoma was in an incredibly important juncture, a moment where growth was coming and where foresight was needed to ensure that that growth was done appropriately. I know we needed to ensure we focused on the necessary infrastructure, sidewalks, roadways, schools, and services, and put together a true plan to ensure that development was done properly. I wanted to make sure our community would be a place where our children, including my own, would want to raise their children. That was why I ran for office then and why I'm running for re-election now. Since being elected, I have delivered on all my promises to you, and I think a whole lot more. I promised to support road maintenance, sidewalk expansion, our school system, and a plan for growth. With road maintenance, during my last 3 years, our board has consistently increased the amount of funding we have allocated to our street maintenance projects. In fact, over the past 3 years, we have dedicated, and I have to read this exactly, $1,755,875 towards street paving, compared to the 3 years before that, $930,542. And that's without a change to your property tax rate. In fact, we're even slated to finally begin Cedar Lane, which is likely going on right now. Sidewalks. Over the past 3 years, we broke ground finally on ensuring safe walking routes to East Lincoln and have begun a project to add sidewalks at Avoca and Kings Lane, which is something I've been advocating for since before I was even elected the first time. Cedar Lane sidewalks are on our way as well, in the process and coming. Our children's education is so incredibly important, but we also have to make sure they have a safe way to get to our schools. With education, our board worked with our city schools to fund a rebuild of Jack T. Ferris schools, and I'm very excited to see that project launch. As the liaison to the school board, I worked with both boards to ensure that the city board is abreast of anything major coming down the pipeline so that they are prepared to address those needs as they come. Plan for development. While on the Planning Commission, I saw the need for an updated land use map and heard the need for it from many developers and citizens. Upon being elected, I pushed for that updated map, which allowed us to not even do that, but to do a much-needed comprehensive development plan, which we will be doing and releasing to our community. And I want to make sure you understand that this plan was created through a lot of community engagement. It came from you. The plan comes from you, as it should. And it, coupled with the ARPA funding that we're receiving, will tackle many more projects on the list that I know I've heard from each of you. I've served as liaison to our downtown, our tourism council, our mayor's youth, our board of education, and spent almost 3 years in the planning commission, where I think if you want to learn about city government, that is a place to learn. And in summary, I think I've made good on all my campaign promises. But as aldermen, we're simply tasked to show up to board meetings and be prepared to vote. But I don't believe in doing the bare minimum. And I don't believe that when you elected me, you expected more of me than just what the job of alderman entails. You elected me because I listened to you at your doors, on the phone, in meetings. And I continue to do this after being elected by hosting monthly office hours, being available to talk to you whenever you wanted to call me, and meeting with you in person when you weren't able to come to my office hours. And I want to thank you for being willing to talk to me. Because you did, I've been uniquely positioned to hear your concerns and hopes for our community. Because of this, I was able to go above and beyond the call of duty and have launched multiple initiatives. The Jefferson Street Park project came when a concerned citizen brought a concern about the lack of maintenance at those basketball courts. I worked with the Tullahoma Sports Council to solicit local businesses and private donors, and a big thank you to them, to secure private funding to fully revitalize those courts. And I gotta be honest, they look amazing. Thank you to our Parks and Recreation Department and our Public Works Department for helping take my vision and make it happen. As a survivor of domestic violence, I was grateful to be able to serve and asked to be served on our county's Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team. While serving on it, I realized that to truly interrupt the cycle of violence that happens in so many of our homes, we need to talk to our youth. I partnered with Haven of Hope and our city school system to go and talk with our 7th and 8th graders about cultivating healthy relationships, warning signs of manipulation, control, and abuse, but in an age-appropriate manner so that these kids understood. While I say I'm listening to you, I know that sounds silly, but it's true. I mean it. Over the span of 2 weeks last fall, 3 separate community members vocalized their concerns for our citizens who are experiencing homelessness as the cold winter months were coming. 2 months later, the winter shelter program that I spearheaded was offering a safe shelter to as many as 20 people in an evening. Multiple nonprofits, multiple churches, and probably 100 community volunteers participated in this project, and that with their help, we were able to give a safe place for people to stay at night. With their help, this project flourished solely with private funding and support, and we're looking to continue it and to grow it even more. Throughout the pandemic, it became evident that our world was experiencing a mental health crisis. I was thankful to become involved in our county's first American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Walk and formed Team Tullahoma, which ended up being one of the top fundraising teams. And during this time, to destigmatize mental illness as well as to help get registrations for the walk, I shared my own struggles to empower those who might feel alone. These are just a few of the initiatives I have launched, and I honestly can't go into all of the rest because I'm probably running out of time at this point. I hope I've given you enough information, though, so that you can make an educated decision on your vote. My promise to you, though, if I'm reelected, is that I'll continue to be the person who you have expected me to be, a servant leader who is a professional, who is committed to our community, who goes and beyond to get good, tangible work done, who partners with our community, with each of you, to involve you in this good work, and who will always be approachable and open to hearing your hopes and dreams for our community. I thank you for allowing me to serve you for the past 3 years, and I'm humbly asking you for your support so I can continue to do good, needed work here in Tullahoma right alongside you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kirk Glick, and I'm running for Alderman to be your voice at City Hall. I was born at Traverse Air Force Base, California in 1962. And I spent my early childhood living in various states throughout the country with my dad Sheldon, who was a career Air Force officer, my mom Joyce, and my sister Kim. In 1973, when I was 11, my family settled in Tullahoma, and I enrolled at Robert E. Lee Elementary School. You can imagine what an 11-year-old California kid thought when he heard he was going to Robert E. Lee School. Well, it didn't take long, and I made a lot of friends, many of which I still have to this day. I continued in Tullahoma City Schools, graduating in 1980, and I continued my education at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, graduated in 1984 with a degree in business management. After college, I took a part-time position with the City of Tullahoma while I pursued employment opportunities. But I enjoyed working with the Parks and Recreation Department, saw the value it brought to the community and how it improved the quality of life in Tullahoma, so I decided to continue my career with the city, accepting a full-time position. I received several promotions, culminating with my appointment to Director of Parks and Recreation, a position which I held for 21 years, making me the longest-serving Parks and Recreation Director in the history of Tullahoma. During this period, I met my wife, Carla. We were married in 1999 after she earned her degree at Middle Tennessee State University. After living many places, my family decided to stay in Tullahoma. After college, I decided to come back to Tullahoma. We have chosen Tullahoma as our home, and I have been fortunate to serve the people of Tullahoma for 36 years before retiring last year. Under my leadership as the Director of Parks and Recreation, we made many improvements, brought numerous new facilities, creative, innovative recreation programs, and much more. During that time, I worked for 7 mayors, 5 city administrators, countless aldermen, as well as managing hundreds of employees. Believe me, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of city politics. Now I want to bring my experience and knowledge to work for you and represent you as aldermen. I believe that the government should only do what the people cannot do better for themselves. Regulations should only be made when necessary to protect individual rights, and the government should not impede business or the lawful interaction of free individuals. I believe that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen work for the people of Tullahoma and are in place solely to represent their desires in forming and implementing the policies that guide our city. The city administrator and staff serve at the pleasure of the board and are only empowered to enact the policies of the board and thus the people. This process must take place in an environment open to all. I believe that the citizens of Tullahoma are taxed enough. Beside normal growth, any additional program expenditures must be accompanied with equal cuts in expenditures of existing programs. Regular audits of programs should be performed to be sure that they remain relevant and continue to be accomplished in the most efficient and cost-effective manner. Having worked for the city for 36 years, I know that the backbone and strength of our city government are the city employees. Tullahoma is lucky to have an outstanding group of dedicated personnel that work hard to serve the people of Tullahoma. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen must ensure that these dedicated employees are treated fairly and have the leadership they richly deserve. What has always made Tullahoma a great place to live are the people. Over my 36 years with the city of Tullahoma, I have listened to the people. I have heard their concerns, their wishes, their complaints, and their desires. I have listened to the residents and the business owners, and I hear your voice. Like the rest of the nation, Tullahoma citizens are having to deal with inflation, supply chain issues, and of course, high fuel costs. When the people must live on a tighter budget, they rightfully expect their local government to do the same. As alderman, I commit to working together with the entire board to ensure that our city gets the most out of every tax dollar, lives within its means, and most importantly, not increase the tax burden on our residents or businesses. Many of you have spoken to me on how you are tired of and embarrassed by the infighting, social media drama, and constant bickering between the elected board and mayor and aldermen. You wonder how they can get anything done. As your next alderman, I will represent each of you with maturity and integrity and will work with everyone regardless of politics. There is so much more we can accomplish together when we rise above the current pettiness. Probably the number one concern I hear from everyone is the condition of our streets. It is time that they are properly fixed, not just repaved. As a growing city, this cannot be ignored any longer. The Tullahoma City School Board does a great job of managing our schools. Our teachers are among the best in the state, and I support them 100%. The role of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen is to take the lead in creating business-friendly environment which will produce new opportunities and jobs for our children when they complete their education, so they can build a future right here in Tullahoma. Businesses and industry want to make Tullahoma a home. The city needs to be a partner rather than an adversary to economic development. There is much to be done, and I'm ready to put my experience and leadership to work in Tullahoma on day one. When you don't like how things are going, you have choices. You can accept it, you can run away, or you can take a stand. I've decided to take a stand and fight for our Tullahoma values, for your values. Please join me in this fight. Don't remain silent. Spread the word, and most importantly, get out and vote so your voice can be heard. Our city, our county, and our nation are at a crossroads. We have this opportunity to set them on the right track. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or complaints about our city. Come to an event. I'd like to meet as many of you as I can. I respectfully ask for your vote for Alderman. Please cast your vote for the future of Tullahoma on August 4th or during early voting July 15th through the 30th. Thank you.
Hello, friends and neighbors. My name is Linda Perut Johnson. I'm running for a seat on the Tullahoma Board of Mayor and Aldermen. I have lived in Tullahoma most of my life. I'm the proud wife of Colonel Jeffrey Johnson, Senior Instructor for the Tullahoma High School Marine Corps Junior ROTC. I do all I can to help with the program because I believe it is highly beneficial to the cadets. They learn about responsibility and leadership as well as personal finance, civics, and government. Jeff and I have been blessed with 4 adult children and 5 grandchildren. On a personal level, I'm a conservative Christian and member of Marble Plains Baptist Church at Timms Ford State Park. I'm a patriot and I believe in the Constitution as the law of the land. My roots in Tullahoma go way back. I attended Robert E. Lee Elementary as a child, and my son Garrett later attended there and graduated from Tullahoma High School. In fact, we both had the same 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Pam Gillum. Garrett played baseball in the City League from the time he was 5 years old through Babe Ruth, and I was assistant coach one year. After graduating from high school, I worked at First National Bank as a teller and in retail stores at Northgate Mall. I earned an Associate of Science degree from Motlow College with an emphasis in accounting, and later earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Management and Human Relations from Trevecca Nazarene University. When I homeschooled my daughter and son, we were members of the Grace Baptist Church and Cedar Lane Church of Christ homeschool co-ops. My grandparents, Fred and Mary Cassidy, owned a property and casualty insurance agency downtown for several years. My granddad, a World War II Army Air Corps veteran, was commander of the American Legion and the VFW, and he called bingo at the American Legion. My stepfather, Edward Feltz, worked at the Wilson Golf Plant, and my mother, Barbara Feltz, worked as a registered nurse for 30 years at Harton Regional Medical Center. My aunt Denise Meesh worked 30 years for the Lester Green and McCord Insurance Agency. I love Tullahoma, and I'm very proud of our great community. I will work hard for every citizen, regardless of political affiliation. I promise to treat everyone fairly and with respect. My goal is to bring unity and collaborate with others to help Tullahoma's citizens and businesses prosper. I wish to bring a reasonable, citizen-centered voice to local government and do my part to guide Tullahoma in a positive direction. I believe in keeping taxes as low as possible and living within a government's means while providing quality services to taxpayers. I believe our constitutional rights should be protected, and we should do all we can to preserve our liberty that our veterans fought and died for. On a business level, I'm the owner and CEO of Neal Creek Retreat, a Christian-based rental property in Belvedere that is currently under construction. I'm a notary public and a Tennessee Municipal Finance Officer, or CMFO, inactive at this time. To become a CMFO, I attended a year-long program of classes taught by the University of Tennessee Municipal Technical Advisory Service instructors. Upon the successful completion of the program, I was awarded a diploma from the State Comptroller's Office. The subjects covered were governmental accounting, financial reporting, internal control and auditing, government environment, time management, purchasing, payroll, cash management, debt management, and municipal budgeting. Currently, I'm working on my master's degree in business administration from Tennessee Tech, and I decided to run for alderman because I feel like Tullahoma is at a critical juncture. I've come to realize the great importance of integrity and leadership at the local government level. I would like to see Tullahoma's policymakers move in a positive direction by focusing on the things that truly matter to citizens, taxes that are affordable, and allocating those funds wisely in support of prioritized needs, a business-friendly environment, law and order, streets that are maintained, and an attractive community that makes others want to make their home here. Through the years, I have gained relevant experience that I can bring to an alderman position. As Director of Finance and Administration for Tennessee Duck River Development Agency in Shelbyville for 10 years, I was in charge of accounts payable, payroll, bank account reconciliation, and preparing monthly financial statements. During my tenure, I became very knowledgeable about governmental accounting and auditing procedures and had 0 audit findings. My experience also included preparing and operating within budgets, presenting financial statements at board meetings, and taking minutes. So I'm familiar with Robert's Rules of Order and the Sunshine Law, which states that public business that affects public policy must be conducted in the open with transparency to the public. Prior to joining Duck River Agency, I worked for Lakeway Publishers 7 years as editor of the Manchester Times and as a reporter for the Tullahoma News. During my tenure there, I gained valuable experience in journalism and administration, and I learned how to work effectively with the media and the public. As a former employee of the Bridgestone Tire Plant in Morrison, I can relate to the plight of the blue-collar worker. For 7 years, I worked 12-hour swing shifts, days and nights in the same week. When I worked in the Banbury department, where the rubber for the tires is mixed with pigments, temperatures exceeded 100 degrees. I believe in volunteer work and giving back to the community. For several years, I coordinated the Duck River cleanup in Normandy, supervising 50-plus volunteers. I also volunteer for activities hosted by the high school junior ROTC program. Some of the local organizations I support include Life Choices, Decisions, Choices, and Options, Shepherd's House Homeless Shelter for Women and Children, where I served as board treasurer in 2019. I've also served as board president of Tullahoma's Head Start program during the time my grandchildren attended, and I was also a board member for the Coffee County Children's Advocacy Center. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected alderman for Tullahoma, my goals are responsible stewardship of taxpayer funds. I believe we should repair our crumbling infrastructure, including sidewalks and streets, before investing in new projects. I believe in maintaining a family-friendly, safe community and creating more safe recreational activities for our youth. I support local businesses, and I want to make it easier for them to start up and succeed in Tullahoma. If elected, my time in office will be marked by integrity, and I will do what is best for the citizens of this town. I would appreciate your vote during early voting July 15th through 30th or on Election Day, August the 4th. The last day to register to vote is July 5th. I'm open to your questions and concerns. Feel free to call me at 931-570-0456 or send me a text message, or you can email me at linda@lighttube.net. Thank you so much for your time and attention. May God bless Tullahoma and the USA. Together we can make Tullahoma an even greater place to live and work.
Good morning. My name is Jerry Mathis. I am running for alderman for the city of Tullahoma for the 5th time, I believe it is, because I was a previous alderman for 4 separate terms, and I decided to get out for 1 year, and then decided after people talking to me about why don't you get back in, so I'm going to try it again and see what happens. So I appreciate your vote when the time comes, and that's what election's all about. But please get out there and vote, whatever you do. Now, I grew up in Estill Springs. My mother and dad lived in Estill all of my life. My dad was a mechanic at Arnold Engineering Development. Mother was a housekeeper and a gardener. And one thing about my dad that really stuck out in my mind, I went one night, he was sitting in the lounge chair. He became very ill at the latter part of his years, and he was sitting in the chair, and I walked in and I said, "Dad, saw a movie tonight." And he said, "What was that?" I said, "I saw Patton. You need to see it. You need to see Patton." Because he just looked at me and said, "Jerry, I don't need to see Patton." I said, "Why?" "I served under Patton." And so I said, "Woo, you know," but that's one thing about him. He was a World War II veteran. He never one time ever brought up his experiences, and even after that day, he still didn't bring it up to us, but had a close relationship. I was a teacher and coach at Tullahoma High School for 50 years. I was a baseball coach, girls basketball coach. I was also the cross-country coach for girls and boys, and we I had a great experience at Tullahoma High School. I got to meet lots and lots of people. And I was a teacher for 36 years, assistant principal, and 18 years I was the athletic director, and I was a CTE director for 10 years. So I've been around the clock, as they always say. Now, main thing that people ask me now is, Jerry, why in the world do you want to run again? Well, I've always been under the assumption that if you've got problems, or if you don't have problems, but you have concerns about things that are going on at the time, then you need to go ahead. Don't just talk about them, and don't go around here and criticize them. Try to do something about it. And I felt like the only way I can do that is by running for alderman again and try to get in there and try to make some decisions, because I'm here for the people of Tullahoma. I'm not here for one individual group. I'm not here for a certain group of people. I'm here for everyone in Tullahoma. I want them to understand that if I'm there, if I'm fortunate enough to win, then you come see me. I will try my best to help you in anything I do. Now, what do I think we need in Tullahoma now? First of all, I think that, our board needs to get together, and they need to get along really well. You don't need to be critical of each other on the air. I've seen that happen 2 or 3 times, and I don't like that. I tell you another thing I don't. Our roads are atrocious. Now, people say, well, they just finished doing Cedar Lane. Yeah, they did. But now Cedar Lane was in the works for the 10 years I was there. That's when we first initiated Cedar Lane, and it's just now gotten done. So it shows you it takes a little while to do it. Cedar Lane is fantastic, but we've got other roads in this town, potholes in this town that need to be fixed. What we need to do is some of our people that travel these roads every day, such as your garbage men, when they see these things, they need to make a note of it. Get it to us and let us see what it is. Let us drive around and see. If we have to, drive around and see what's going on, and we'll make those adjustments to them. And they need to be repaired, let's repair them. Another thing we need, and I get this at my house all the time, is we got to have retail stores. Now you say, well, we're getting Marshalls, and yeah, we're getting Marshalls now, and Marshalls is a good one, and I understand that probably we're going to get one more, Rossi's, but I think that we need to get some retail stores in here that these ladies and men can go shop. I get tired of going to Murfreesboro some of these times just to find something that she needs, and I catch it at home when I do. Why don't you have this? And I said, well, I don't know, but we will try our best to do it. So we'd like to have retail stores. We need to have our repairs done to our roads, and we need to fund whatever needs to be funded. TUA needs to be funded more. I think the schools, they need to be updated as best they possibly can. And if the money's there, we need to go ahead and utilize that money in a way that will comfort our people in this city. I'm here for the people of this Tullahoma. I'm here to help in any way I possibly can. I've been there before. I had a good experience before. I enjoyed every minute of it. I didn't get out of it because I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it, but I got out of it because it was time. I'd been there for 12 years, and as they always say, let someone else do it for a while, let them see what it's all about. That's when I got out of coaching. Somebody said, why did you get out of coaching? Yeah, well, let them try it and see how it is. So got a lot of things to do. We got a lot. Tullahoma has a lot of things that we need to get done. I'm here to try to do my best. I'm here to help you in any way. If you want to give me a call, you may do so, and I'll be accommodating to you in any way I possibly can. I'd appreciate your vote on August the 4th, and my name is Jerry Mathis, and I'm running for Alderman for Tullahoma. Thank you very much.